and it's geared towards beginners, but I think, I considered myself a beginner fly fisher for probably the first 5 years that I did it. So it doesn't need to be your first season on the water. It can just be where you're at a point where you want to pick up more information. And so we offer an opportunity to connect with experts like yourself, to ask questions and kind of convey that necessary knowledge to enter into bass fishing. But then we also try to continue to connect women to each other and build those relationships and those friendships. And we do that through a number of different virtual communication strategies over the whole course of the session.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, coming to you from the Lance Chuck Camper Mobile Podcast Studio, Master Captain Angie Scott.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. Last week, I talked about a program called Bass Tactics that's being put on by Artemis sportswomen, and I want to talk a little bit more about that this week. I have Marcia Brownlee from the National Wildlife Federation and Artemis sportswomen on the show. So welcome to the show, Marcia.
Hi, Angie. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for taking some time to come on and give us a little background about this program.
Yeah, so it's kind of the fast pivot brainchild of the pandemic when suddenly our Artemis Sportswomen event-based organization, which a huge part of our goals and initiatives are to create communities of women hunters and anglers across the country. So, I think one of the biggest barriers to retention of women anglers is not necessarily having people that you can do this with outside of family members. And so we want to connect women to other women who are fishing and hunting to offer support and that social networking that can be so pivotal for retention. So we are an event-based organization to a large extent. And of course, when 2020 hit and we couldn't do events, we pivoted to a more virtual realm and found that was a great platform for us for a number of reasons. One is that since we are a national organization, it's a great way to engage our community nationally. But then two, women have schedules that are often dictated by their families and a lot of numerous obligations. And so having something in a virtual format where you can learn to use the wonderful language we all picked up in the pandemic, we can learn synchronously or asynchronously. And so you can join us real time in a virtual environment and ask questions, but then they are recorded. And so you can also engage on it on your own time and then communicate with the community through other platforms. So that's kind of the story of why we pivoted to this virtual online environment. The specifics of the program itself are, the effort is to guide people through their season. And it's geared towards beginners, but I think, I considered myself a beginner fly fisher for probably the first 5 years that I did it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't need to be your first season on the water. It can just be where you're at a point where you want to pick up more information. And so we offer an opportunity to connect with experts like yourself, to ask questions and kind of convey that necessary knowledge to enter into bass fishing. But then we also try to continue to connect women to each other and build those relationships and those friendships. And we do that through a number of different virtual communication strategies over the whole course of the session. So this tactics will start in April and go through June. And so you can learn with us and be supported by your community and by experts there to answer questions throughout the whole season instead of a one-off.
Yeah.
So hopefully that allows people the opportunity to grow over the course of a couple months.
Awesome. Yeah, I love, regardless really of your level, I think there's always something to be learned. And hugely important to connect to others, and you can always learn something from somebody else regardless. I mean, I'm looking forward to learning something, even though I'm quote unquote an expert, but I learn something every time I go out.
Can I just say, Yeah, can I just say that I love how you quote unquoted your own expertise because getting women, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, right? I think part of it is that women perceive their learning as a lifelong journey,
right?
Particularly when it comes to hunting and fishing. But everybody is that I've talked to more often than not in relation to Artemis and the work that we do, they're reluctant to uphold themselves as experts. And you, my friend, are an expert, no quote necessary.
Yeah, well, I definitely do perceive myself as one that is a lifelong learner for sure. So you hit the nail on the head there. So you've been doing this for a little while now. What are some of the other programs you've already done?
Yeah, we did. Our first one was turkey tactics, and then we followed it up with we try to do 2 a year. So we did turkey tactics, and then we did fly fishing tactics. And this year we're doing bass tactics, and then in the fall we'll do whitetail tactics.
Okay. Very cool. And there's also, talk a little bit about the toolkit. There's a toolkit available to purchase along with this program as well.
Yeah, so we have, with each tactic series, we do a tactics toolkit. And this is just a small package of things that are useful for beginners to have as far as gear when they first get in the field. I know it can be tricky, particularly if I'm, again, talking about fly fishing in the fly fishing tactics series that we did, knowing what flies you need, knowing what floatant works best. And there's just a steep learning curve. And so we partner with businesses to provide a little starter toolkit and an introduction to brands that are doing good work, both in recruitment and retention of new hunters and anglers, but also conservation minded companies. Like, for example, the floatant that we used was environmentally friendly, and the flies that we put out were all non-lead. And so guiding people who are new to the water in being informed consumers as well. Just giving them a little introduction and having the opportunity to partner with businesses who are doing really good things. And so our turkey tactics toolbox, we had targets so you could pattern your gun. We had turkey calls, a peg call, which was wonderfully donated by this Peg Legs Custom Calls out of Georgia, I believe. Super generous. What else did we have? Oh, we had face paint, nature's paint. It's just a great little starter kit that we can offer to our participants kind of at the cost of shipping and packaging. So it's a good deal.
Yeah. And so you kind of touched on, there is also a conservation element here, and that's going to be part of the program when we talk about bass fishing. And so it's cool that, to tie that in. And I think, lead free is definitely an important thing to talk about too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to us, with Artemis being part of the National Wildlife Federation, conservation is integral to all of the work that we do. And I think when you take the responsibility to enter the field as a hunter or the water as an angler, there's an obligation to be informed about the conservation issues that are impacting the wildlife and the habitat that you're a part of. And so we consider conservation to be essential to all of the outreach and education and community building work that we do. And so, yes, for bass tactics, we'll be talking about invasive carp. For fly fishing, we talked about climate change and its impact on our fishing seasons. And for turkey tactics, we talked about the use of non-lead ammunition and how important that is to habitat quality. So, yes, you will always get informed conservation information in addition to casting tactics when you connect with Artemis.
So I saw mention that there are scholarships available if somebody needs.
Yeah. So in order to participate in the tactics series overall, and that includes attending all of our online events and getting access to all of the recorded material, that's only $5. We try to keep that as reasonable as possible. And then the tactics toolbox is $30. And registration is included in that. But we know that even that entry-level cost can be prohibitive for some people, and we don't want cost to be a barrier at all. So we do have scholarship opportunities for both the tactics toolbox and the registration fee itself. So gotcha. If people are interested in more information on that, they should send an email to artemis@nws.org. We do have a short application. It's nothing expensive that we ask people to fill out. And we have limited resources to provide scholarships, but we definitely want to support as many women as we can.
Let's see, we kick off April, looking at my calendar, I don't think I put it on there yet.
19th?
19th.
Yes. Yep. Tuesday, April 19th.
I need to get that on there so I don't schedule something else.
Yeah.
So does registration go all the way? Does registration go all the way up until it starts, or how does that work?
Yeah, so registration actually, because we do record the events, you can register at any point during the tactic series. And we'll give you access to the recorded and media items. Yeah, the sooner you register, the sooner you can join us in that live community, which is a huge part of the fun. So I encourage everybody to register sooner rather than later, but there is no deadline for registration. Yeah,
and if you are able, if your schedule allows to be on the live call, that allows you to be able to ask questions during the question and answer session as well. There is a Slack channel for people that have questions throughout the program, right?
There is a Slack channel, yep, and that's a channel that we use so the community can ask questions of each other, just kind of that broad-based resource, because so much of what we do is regional and time sensitive. So we figure if we connect everybody in this one online resource, then the opportunity for a response is significantly increased. People are always welcome to email Artemis directly, and we can either answer your question or connect you to people who can. But it's so much better to place that type of interaction in the community's hands. And so for each tactic series, we do have a Slack channel where if you're on the boat and you're like, I can't find the fish, I need advice. And then hopefully you can get a response in a pretty timely manner.
Yeah, because what's going on in Minnesota might be different as to what's going on in California and Florida, So fish are always doing something different based on the local conditions.
One of the things we try to do with Fast Tactics or with all of our tactic series, is host opportunities for people to get together in person, in addition to this virtual engagement. And a lot of that, of course, is dependent on availability and geographical location of participants. But we encourage our volunteer ambassadors who are brought on to be supported by Artemis to create their own local communities. We encourage them to host opportunities for people in their area to get together in person in conjunction with this tactic series. And we, support people kind of taking the reins on their own experience and say, hey, I'm headed out to the lake Tuesday. If anybody's nearby and wants to join, please do. I think, that can be a little intimidating and scary to do when you are trying to connect with people that you've never met before. Where do you put that information out, and how do you do it in a safe way? And the hope is that with the Artemis and the values and ethics that we cultivate in our organization and in our members, there's a little bit more of a like-minded community that we can reach out to and bravely take that step to transfer these virtual connections into in-person connections. So even though the majority of it is virtual, we do strongly encourage people to make those transitions to in-person connections too. And then in between the sessions, we offer emails and links to more resources and more information, because again, learning how to fish is a lifelong pursuit. And so in addition to providing information during the tactic series, we hope to connect you to resources that will live long past us and our event together. And then lastly, have a storytelling component in conjunction with each of our tactic series. For Turkey Tactics, it was storytelling, and we had some really incredible in-field experiences. And for fly fishing, it was a photo contest, and again, had some just wonderful pictures of people on the water and some prizes that go along with that. And a part of that is, one, we really just want to hear about your stories in the field and on the water. And it's one of my favorite parts of my job is to read the storytelling contests, because it's just amazing to get that inside perspective into everybody's experience. But secondly, a huge part of what Artemis wants to do is amplify the voice and visibility in the national sporting community. And the best way we can do that is to tell real stories and real experiences that a broad range of people can relate to. So we encourage people to participate in our storytelling contest, which will wrap up at the end of the season in June.
Great.
I think that's it.
Awesome. Where can people go to register?
Yes, you can. So you can always find registration information on our social media accounts, on Facebook and on Instagram. It's Artemis_sportswomen. So look for us there. Our links to registrations for all of our events, including Bass Tactics. And then you can also find it on our website, which is artemis.nwf.org.
Got it. I'll put a link to that in the show notes to make it as easy as possible for people listening to this. Whatever podcast platform you're on, you can just click the show notes and click the link and get registered. Or if you're listening via the Woman Angler website, you can just click it there. You'll see it right below the player. And this you can find at thewomanangler.com/232. So nice and easy options there to get registered. And I hope to see you on the live call, everyone listening, and tell your friends too, because this is a great opportunity. If you have somebody in your life that you're wanting to get into bass fishing, then, bring them on board. I mean, it's $5, or if you buy the toolkit, that's included. So $30 plus an introductory toolkit. Scholarships are available, but there's I think no better way to get an introduction into bass fishing and connect with other women and build a community that way.
I want to say these are always a good time. We always laugh a fair amount. And Angie, I'm just really excited to partner with you on this. So thank you for joining us and supporting us in this work.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time.
Yep, it will be.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to get this kicked off.
Thank you, Angie.